Greetings and welcome to INFODOME. What comes to mind when you think of a special effects heavy movie? Likely it's something set in space or on a distant planet, full of creatures that could only be rendered by those steady hands. But this year's BAFTA and OSCAR winning movie, 1917, has VFX in spades. Here are a few behind the scenes facts for you to sink your teeth into. Number 1. Inspired by director Sam Mendes' grandfather's experience in World War I, titled The Autobiography of Alfred H. Mendes, 1897 to 1991. Mendes says his grandfather Alfred, who entered World War I in 1916 as a 17-year-old, did indeed carry messages throughout no man's land, as per the mission in this film. His advantage was that he was only 5 foot 4 inches tall and was often hidden by the battleground's winter mist that usually hung as high as 6 feet. And, after soldiering for 2 years in the muddy trenches, his grandfather Alfred had a lifelong habit of constantly washing his hands, yet he never talked about his wartime experience until he was in his 70s. Number 2. One of the complex elements of this movie is shown throughout the events of this film, happening in real time in one continuous shot.
From the very beginning, I felt this movie should be told in real time. Every step of the journey, breathing every breath with these men, felt integral. And there is no better way to tell this story than with one continuous shot.
From the first moment I talked to Sam about the idea of it as a one-shot movie, I knew it was going to be really immersive.
Sometimes you have a camera being carried by an operator, hooked onto a wire, and the wire carries it across more land, and it's unhooked again. That operator runs with it, then steps onto a small jeep, which carries him another 400 yards, and he steps off it again and goes round a corner. There's always that sort of get-out-of-jail card that you have with the movie. Well, you know, we might be able to cut around this, or we might take that scene out. That's not possible on this film. The dance of the camera and the mechanics all have to be in sync with what the actor's doing.
If you told it in a conventional way, I don't think you would have felt the energy. You're always moving forward. You never go back. And the planning was absolutely key.
Number 3. It took 6 months for the actors to rehearse the movie before shooting started. The movie was shot from April to June 2019 in Wiltshire, Hankley Common and Govan, Scotland, as well as Shepperton Studios. Conservationists concerned that filming on Salisbury Plain could disrupt the potentially undiscovered remains in the area requested an archaeological survey to be conducted before any set construction began. Number 4. Over 5,200 feet of trenches were dug for the film. That's just under 1 mile. The cast and crew had to know exactly where they were going and what was going to happen next, as the labyrinth of trenches was difficult to navigate.
The challenges of prepping this movie are the challenges of prepping a normal movie times about 5. We had to measure every step of the journey.
In the early days of rehearsing, me and Jules, Sam and Roger turned up to this open field that was pretty much nothing there other than grass. And we had the script in our hand and we literally just walked and talked every single scene to see how long it took us to get from A to B.
The scene has to be the exact length of the land, and the land cannot be longer than the scene, and the scene cannot be longer than the land. And so you have to rehearse every line of dialogue on location. And that's where it overlaps with doing theatre, because the world has to be crafted around the rhythm of the script.
We had a lot of group conversations about the sets, whether it was over models or illustrations that Dennis had done.
We wanted to understand the physicality of what we had to build.
We built over 1 mile of trenches.
To dig it was quite a task. When we were digging, we were still doing rehearsals, we were still staking out the trench lengths so that we could hone in the exact distances that we needed.
You almost have to change the way you think about how we view movies as a viewer. and how we make movies as a filmmaker. The art department, more than anyone, has been really affected just figuring out the scale of how large these sets need to be.
It's a highly choreographed piece, so every inch has to be accounted for. It was an amazing amount of work. Every place that we went was a magnitude of problems to solve. You have all these locations that are basically just ground, and you have to create something out of it.
Number 5. The flares flying over the ruined town were flown among wires in order to control the direction of the shadows they cast. They were also chemically formulated to burn with a warmer colour that was closer to tungsten light. Number 6. Every element of the movie had to be painstakingly planned. All the sets were built from scratch and purpose-built for the difficult shooting of each scene. Number 7. Mendes and editor Lee Smith stated that despite the apparently continuous shot, broken only by one interval of unconsciousness, there were actually dozens of invisible edits concealed by transitions through black, moves around and behind objects, and so on. According to Mendes, the shortest unbroken shot was 39 seconds long, while the longest single continuous shot was over 8.5 minutes long. Number 8. Director of photography Roger Deakins chose to shoot most of the film on an Arri Alexia LF digital format camera using several lens types. It was his vision that ensured the film looked as beautiful as it did.
What Roger Deakins has done with this film is amazing. Some of the camera work just blew my mind.
Roger is always so inventive. It was like no other form of filmmaking that I've ever experienced before.
You have to construct a journey for the camera that's every bit as interesting as the journey of the actor. What I wanted was one ribbon, like a snake, moving forward, in which the information that you needed happened to fall in front of where the camera was pointing. The fact that we're moving always forward, it does have a compound effect, a gradual growing menace. And that constant sense of threat of what isn't seen, of what might be around the corner, is baked into the DNA of this movie.
Number 9. The lighting rig used for the burning church was 5 stories high and consisted of 2,000 1K tungsten lamps, a total of 2 megawatts. It was one of, if not the largest lighting rigs ever built for film. Number 10. Sections of the film were shot in and around Low Force on the River Tees in Teesdale in June 2019. The production staff had to erect signs warning walkers in the area not to be alarmed by the bodies strewn around the site and in the river. Number 11. Referring especially to one major scene, Mendes has joked that no rats were harmed in the making of this film. The rats are, in a way, the residents of the land. It is the humans who are passing through. And rats aside, the fact that this retreat happens in the spring of 1917 meant that we could make another personality in the movie, another character in the movie. Number 12. There are several times in the movie where you can see the soldiers drinking alcohol. Alcohol rations of 2.5 fluid ounces during World War I were a common practice. Twice per week for soldiers behind the front lines, daily for those on the front lines, and oftentimes double rations when going over the top. Number 13. George McKay's character Lance Corporal Schofield twice bumped into running soldiers, and getting up was not in the script and happened accidentally. A remarkably detailed description and background of this run-for-life finale is detailed by actor and writer Bruce Fretz in his January 2020 New York Times article. We will have that linked below. Number 14. The movie's beginning shot and ending shot both focus on a soldier sitting under a tree. An extra on the film said, "I can't help but laugh at the final shot at the tree. About 100 extras used that tree to urinate on, as the toilets were so far away. We had no idea that the ending would take place with the main actor sitting under it." Number 15. In the scene where a soldier bleeds to death, his face gets paler and paler until it's paper white. This is a medical reality that many films overlook when someone bleeds out. Number 16. April 6, 1917, the date on which the story begins, as shown by a subtitle at the start of the movie, is the date at which the United States declared war on Germany and its allies. The United States' entry into the war is not mentioned in the film, as British soldiers on the front line in northern France would not have heard the news until much later. Number 17. When Schofield plunges into a river filled with dead bodies, Mendes describes this was meant to remind the audience of the mystical river Styx, bordering hell, especially as this scene evolves and lone hero Schofield is soon led to safety as he follows the ethereal solo voice of a singing comrade. The narrative seems to shift from a tone of naturalism to one of epic myth. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to our channel for more behind the scenes facts about your favourite movies, and ring the bell to be notified about all future videos. Until next time.